Hey guys. Okay, I think I'm live. So I posted on Instagram I was going to be coming live at 12:30ish EST. It's a little earlier than that. This is the time that I have available. So I'm not going to be answering any questions today except questions pertaining to the topic I'm discussing. So so the video stays short. And today I'm talking mainly about the effects of suppressing disease, which is what our culture is all about, especially our modern, medical type of culture. So that's what I'm going to be talking about, is just what happens when you suppress disease, and slightly, very, very, very slightly go into miasms, which are more of like a homeopathic belief. And it's a huge discussion. It takes years and years of study, so I'm not going to be discussing everything about it in this short video, but I will slightly go into it, and hopefully it might pique your interest a little bit, and maybe explain some of the issues that you have. And the biggest thing before this video will relate to any disease that you have, any condition or any symptom. But before I go into a lot of detail on the specific, the specific issues of suppressing disease, I want you to picture what happens when your body gets diseased or becomes out of balance. I'm going to take a common disease that everyone will be familiar with, something like syphilis, for example, or any disease that you can think of that produces ulcerations or pus or some sort of discharge. And the reason why I'm using this as an example is because it'll be the easiest to picture in your mind as I go through it. And so what happens is, you're perfectly healthy one day, and then the next you have symptoms and you're not sure why or where these symptoms are coming from. The process that your body is going through to when you get disease to create the symptoms is for a reason. And our medical doctors, most of them, their whole goal is to suppress every single thing, to hide it, to not let your body speak, nothing at all. They just want to suppress everything, and they call it a cure, when really it's not. And so what happens, for example, taking syphilis, is you contract syphilis, which would be a sexually transmitted disease, and you might start to get little ulcerations or discharge or something like that. The way that your body relieves itself of a disease or a virus or a condition in any case is purging. It's pushing it out. So some people, for example, even if you get a poison ivy and it's toxic to certain people are more sensitive to it, and you create little pustules or bubbles on your skin, that's your body's way of pushing the toxins out of the body. And so if you get syphilis, you start to get discharge, or you start to ooze that weird like yellowy color of fluid and things like that. That's your body pushing out the toxin or the virus. If you get a cold or a flu and you start to cough or you start to vomit or have diarrhea, that's your body pushing these things out. If you get a fever, that's your body burning up toxins to protect you, to thrive and survive. And so if you go and say, I have syphilis and I would like something to stop all this discharge, or you go and say, I have a flu and I want to do something to stop the vomiting and diarrhea, or I have a fever and I want to take something to stop the fever, etc. Hopefully you're getting the picture. You go to the doctors and they give you steroids, or they will give you antibiotics or whatever to halt that process. And what that tells your body, or what that's doing to your body, is saying, hold on to all these toxins, hold on to the virus and everything else that you're trying to eliminate, hold on to it, because I don't want to deal with the uncomfortable symptoms. And that's where suppression comes in, is your body's trying to eliminate it, and it does that so that it can come back into balance. And if you stop that process, your body now is holding on to a lot of toxins, and it doesn't cure you, it doesn't help you in any way. It forces your body to hold on to these toxins, viruses, whatever that trigger is. And if your body is suppressed and it cannot eliminate these toxins or these triggers, it's going to hold on to them, and it's going to affect you even deeper than it did if initially or superficially. And so another amazing example is psoriasis. And I'm going to share psoriasis because a lot of you on this channel have some sort of skin issue. And so with psoriasis, if you go and get rash on your body, what your body is doing is purging toxins. It's putting it out through the skin because liver and kidneys are not working. But regardless of why it's pushing it out through the skin, your body's pushing toxins out through the skin. Same thing with eczema or acne. And so when you go and suppress that process by taking steroids or biologics, Humira, Stelara, anything, any sort of injection that stops that process of elimination, your body is now holding on to incredible amounts of toxins. And at some point, your body's going to say, if I hold on to these toxins anymore, I'm literally going to die. And that's eventually what happens. A lot of times, if you suppress something for so long, like psoriasis or some sort of condition, your body will then go into a deeper tissue and it'll affect that tissue deeper. And this is where miasms come in. A lot of miasms are formed by suppression. And the more you suppress something, the deeper it goes in the body and the deeper it affects you, the much harder it is at that point to remove it from your body. I'm not going to go into the description too much of miasms. If you're interested in what that is, Google the term miasm and it'll explain what it is. And there's three main. There's psora, psychotic, and syphilitic miasms. You would get them from different things. Some are, from your parents. So some are inherited. Some are transmitted sexually. Some are developed through strong suppression of disease. But regardless, the point is if you if you suppress a disease and you develop a miasm, the only way to reverse that disease is to eliminate that miasm or neutralize that miasm in the body. It's not a weird woohoo type of science or anything like that. It's perfectly legit. And what it's just trying to explain is that when you have something, your body will have, if you develop something, like a sickness or a disease, your body will give a very superficial and pretty short-lived response. But most people don't want to deal with any sort of pain in their life or any sort of uncomfortableness. And so they go to the doctors, or doctor will give you a bunch of drugs, you take them, and those symptoms are gone. If you had pushed through and just dealt with the symptoms either naturally using homeopathics or herbal remedies or something like that, and just kind of rode through with it, then your body will eliminate what it needs to eliminate and you'll be back in balance. You'll be great. But if you suppress it, that's when the issues start. And I actually had a client who had a bunch of different issues that I'm not going to discuss. But what happened is she started seeing me, and then she was very uncomfortable. A lot of times when we work with homeopathics, because we're working on the miasm, and especially when I start to work on miasms with clients, a lot of really deep-rooted things start to come up, and so they usually get worse before they get better. And that's what happened with this client, and she was getting really uncomfortable. And she was like, I don't want to feel any worse, so she stopped seeing me, and she went to go she went to a naturopath first, but she ended up going to a doctor, just to make the story quicker. She went to a medical doctor who gave her a bunch of steroids and injections, all sorts of things. And she came back not even 2 months later, and she was 1,000 times worse. And then when she came back, she was so much worse that the time it's going to take to eradicate those imbalances from her body is going to be ages, if not lifelong. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because most people don't understand the process of what your body is doing and what it's telling you when you have a symptom. Even if it's a simple cold or a flu or a fever in a child, the first reaction you see from parents is if the child's temperature gets too high, is they start trying to put cold cloths on the head, trying to bring that fever down. But you have to think, like, your body is so intelligent. Why is it creating that fever? Fever is incredibly important in our bodies to do a lot of things. You want to have a fever if you have a virus, or if you have toxins. It's your body's way of burning up those toxins to get rid of them. And if you suppress that fever before your body has reached that point where it can kill all of the virus or all of those toxins, you're going to have that virus in you. You're not going to get rid of it. And every time your child has a fever, you keep suppressing it, your body doesn't have a way to eliminate. And so your body's going to hold on, and at some point it's going to deposit those toxins or that virus deeper in the body than something superficial like a fever. And so you might see that, down the road, that child gets ear infections all the time, or popped eardrums, or they might get major digestive issues, or major mental issues where they're all of a sudden diagnosed with autism or ADHD or something else. Or in adults, you might see rheumatism develop, by suppressing something as simple as like a UTI or something like that. And this topic is so massive that in order to give you guys enough information that you're not confused and can completely understand everything would take a long time. It would take several hours or days. And so what I'm trying to just share with you is why you don't want to suppress disease rather than give you all the facts and details about it. I encourage you guys to go out and always do some research on your own. But just to kind of bring everything together, when you have a chronic disease, the reason why that disease has developed is because there was something in your past that was suppressed, whether it was vaccinations, antibiotics. Most commonly now, what I see from at least the people I work with, because I actually work with like a younger demographic, the biggest thing is Accutane, or birth control is a huge issue too, but mainly Accutane. It's so common because of our bad diet and our estrogen in our drinking water and things like that. It's pretty common to see young teenagers going, as they go through that hormonal or puberty shift, to break out in acne. It's very, very common. And rather than saying, okay, let's work on the liver to get the acne, the toxins away from the skin, or let's balance hormones or something else, they get put on Accutane by their doctor for 6 months, which is the most suppressive and the most damaging thing you could probably take, because not only does it wipe out anything good that's within your body as far as bacteria goes, but it tells your body, we don't care if you're trying to send toxins out of the skin. We don't care if there's toxins in the body. We don't care what you're trying to tell us. Hold on to the toxins, hold on to everything. Who cares if the liver's not working? We're going to give the body Accutane, and Accutane is extremely damaging for the liver. So now you've just damaged your liver more, wiped out all the good bacteria, and are still holding on to a ton of toxins because you did not let your body purge. And so I'm not saying to never take antibiotics or to never get drugs or anything like that. There's a time and a place. But for the most part, you see most people just suppressing things all the time because they don't want to deal with the symptoms, and the doctors have no idea, the effects that the drugs are causing. They don't sit and think, why is there a fever? Why is there acne? Why is there these issues? They don't go to the root cause. They just say, let's suppress it. We'll get rid of it for you and say it's a cure. And then down the road, from suppressing that disease, that person will definitely 100% come back with another issue. It's usually not directly connected as far as symptoms go. So they might come the first time with acne and get antibiotics for Accutane for it, come back a year later and say, I have, arthritis in my fingers or some sort of degenerative condition or disease. And the doctor is going to say that's completely irrelevant to your acne that you came here for a year or two ago. This is a new issue. And they kind of address it singularly without looking at the connection that something was suppressed. The body had no way to relieve itself of these toxins. So it's storing them deeper and it's depositing them into joints and things like that, causing arthritis. Rather than looking at that, they just say, this is completely on its own, and they give you another suppressive drug like Humira or something else for the arthritis without actually trying to get to the root cause. So I want to share that because I do know a lot of people even do, they're like, sometimes, my skin isn't the best and I'm going out in public, so I'm going to do just one round of steroid cream or something just to help my skin a little bit. They don't realize that your skin is flaring up for a reason, so it's suppressing everything for a reason. So when you suppress everything, that flare up that you get is for a reason. It's your body telling you, listen, guys, I need to get this stuff out, and I'm going to do it one way or another. If things keep getting suppressed, so say you start off with Accutane and then maybe you go into Humira if you develop arthritis, and then it just kind of keeps going like that. Down the road, those are the people who've been suppressing things all their life. Those are the people who develop cancer, because eventually your body has no way to relieve itself of these really harmful and dangerous toxins, and so it's depositing them into your cells, and it is mutating and damaging those cells, and then that's where the cancer growth starts to happen. So hopefully you guys are kind of seeing this. I don't know if I'm making sense because I'm trying to compact a ton of information into such a short period of time. If I'm making sense, comment down below, just like with a thumbs up, so I know. If you guys have questions pertaining to specifically what I'm talking about, like suppressing disease, then just comment them down below and I'll make sure I get to everyone. And so the last thing that I just want to say about this is, before you go and take a drug or an antibiotic or suppress something, and again, there's a time and a place. There's a time and a place for everything, for all sorts of drugs. And I think modern medicine is incredible, what we've come to learn and develop, but I just think it's overused, and things are not thought through as far as diseases go. You don't just get rheumatoid arthritis just because your dad had it, or you don't just get major PCOS or psoriasis, or things like that. They're there for a reason, and you have to figure out why. Because if you suppress that process, I can guarantee, and you don't address it, I can guarantee a year, sometimes it's even just 2 months, but it could be 2 months, 6 months, a year or two down the road, you'll end up with an even deeper issue. And then if that doesn't get addressed, it'll be even deeper until your body shuts down. It says, okay, I can't function like this, and then death usually occurs shortly after that. Not trying to say you guys are going to die or anything like that, but just giving you like a visual of what happens in the body in a very quick timeline. And so what happens is with miasms, when you're working on the different miasms, it's more of like looking at, my foot's sleeping, sorry. We're looking more at like your temperament, your symptoms, what you seem to gravitate towards, and in your history, and every little detail, we put it all together, and that's how you determine the miasm of that person. So what's the dominant miasm or active miasm in that person right now based off of symptoms. And so when I see clients, what I do is usually always the first protocol is just basic, like let's get drainage happening, let's get something moving in the body just to prevent the body from getting any worse. And then we start to slowly work on miasms. Usually in like the third or fourth protocol we'll really start. And it's really common where when you start to work on miasms and you start to take an anti-miasmatic remedy, so something that's going to counteract the imbalance in the body, using the law of similia, which is like cures like. When you start to do miasmatic work, what starts to happen is any disease that you, or condition or symptom that you had starting, very early on, all the way up until now, it tends to come in reverse order. So, for example, like when I was working on myself, the very first thing I ever remember having growing up was the major, like insanely peeling lips, tons of cracks and bleeding, and like redness all around the lips. So mainly eczema. That was one of the first symptoms that I had. Then it kind of went into PCOS and like painful periods. Then it started going into more IBS, and then psoriasis and arthritis. And I had steroids, and I had tons of vaccinations and antibiotics, so I was always suppressing them. I used steroid cream on my mouth all the time when I was little, didn't know. And so it just made sense that things were progressing and getting worse in the body because I wasn't addressing anything, and things weren't being eliminated. Anyways, so when I started working on the miasmatic action and taking specific remedies to help, address that imbalance that I had, the first symptom that popped up was my burning, red, flaking, painful lips. That was one of the first things that came up. And normally when I work with clients, if something from their past pops up, they'll say, oh, it's not working, this is not working because I have a new symptom and I'm in pain, and then they stop all the remedies, and that's the worst thing you can do. In order for your body to eliminate what it was meant to eliminate, that was once suppressed, it has to go back through that motion. So if you have syphilis, the only way to reverse that again is when you take a homeopathic remedy, is to go through that process, get the discharges back out of the body, and then it'll be gone and you'll be healed for good. Or I have to say healed very lightly because I'm not allowed to actually say that word, but so you're like, for me, my burning lips came back, and then I had major PCOS and pains and things like that, and I knew what was happening. I knew it was actually a good sign, so I was letting it happen. But most of the time, if you're doing the right thing, you'll notice that there's a worsening of the condition, but it's only acute, it's not chronic, so it'll only be around for a little while until your body gets out what it needed to get out, and then that symptom is gone, and then the next symptom comes up. So then for me, it was the IBS. I had an IBS flare. That all got out, and then kind of got into finally clearing up the psoriasis, and then it was gone. And so it's pretty impressive what actually happens when your body is given the tools necessary to eliminate. Your body has many mechanisms to eliminate toxins. Again, vomiting, diarrhea, skin issues, vaginal discharge, a runny nose. Your body will push toxins out any way it needs to, and it keeps you in balance that way. If you have a symptom, it means your elimination pathways are not working, so we want to get those working rather than suppress the symptom, and then your body's just holding on to a bunch of garbage that's never eliminated, and then it causes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper issues. And that's why I always say, like, the longer you've had a condition or a disease, the longer it takes to reverse, just because you've been holding on to toxins for so long. Looking here. Thanks, guys. A 3-day fast. Actually, I'm going to answer the first question. Okay, the first question is about psoriasis, so I'm not going to get into that. A 3-day fast is not the best way to eliminate everything. It's fantastic. It's a great way to help purge, but you still have to get to the root cause of your condition, regardless of what it is. If it's poor liver function, you have to improve that function. If it's kidney, you have to improve that function. If it's virus, or actually even virus isn't a root cause, because viruses are only present in the body if there's a reason for it to be there. So you always got to get to the root cause. Most of the time it's been some sort of suppression of disease, and it usually starts from when you're pretty little. It's because you're not in control. Like another form of suppression is a child who has asthma or bronchitis or something like that, and they're put on a puffer or given steroids to inhale, just to suppress that. Your body is, if you have that asthma, and I'm not saying that children don't need to have their airways open, I'm not saying you don't ever use a puffer, but it's a good, if you have asthma, you want to say, well, why do you have asthma, and improve that, like fungal overgrowth or mold or something like that, rather than just use puffers your entire life, because all you're doing is your body's telling you something's wrong and you're suppressing and suppressing and suppressing. And most of the time things are suppressed when you're a child because your parents are having control over you, and so they're putting you on antibiotics because they think that's what's best for you, or on steroids or something like that. They're the ones that are giving you the vaccinations, since they're taken early on, so you don't really get a decision on all of that. But as you get older, you do get a decision, and the most important thing is fasting, eating, healthy, all of that. Absolutely, that's all part of it, but you still want to get to the root cause, and you don't want to suppress. If your body has a symptom, it's telling you something. And again, our world today, and I find, not just a case for millennials, but for everyone, is if something is uncomfortable, they want to suppress it. They want it gone. Like flu shots are being pushed everywhere. You don't have time to have a cold, take a flu shot. And it's like, well, the flu shot, probably doesn't even work because they're not even choosing the right strains that you might contract. But even if it does, like, your body's way of dealing with junk is to eliminate. And so you want that to happen. You want to eliminate. If you think of IBS, if you eat a food that is aggravating or that you're sensitive to, you get inflammation in the colon, and then you get diarrhea. That diarrhea that you get is your body eliminating what was the trigger. You ate dairy, your body did not like it, so it pushed it out. That's what IBS is. It's a form of elimination through the colon. And so to go and take the drugs that your doctor would give you to stop that elimination just means that you're holding on to those inflammatory toxins that are in your gut for who knows how long, causing more and more damage, like leaky gut and things like that. So it's like a whole it's a whole topic that I would love to go deeper in when I have a bit more time, because it's so complex, especially when you start to get into miasms. But I encourage you to, I'm going to see, can I type on this? Maybe not. I don't think I can type. I was going to try to type the word that I want you guys to search, but I'll put it in the description of the video. But if you search miasms, and then just search some basic symptoms of the different miasms, just learn a little bit about it. You'll understand a little bit more of what I'm trying to explain here. But yeah, the point of this video was just purely suppression of disease, because it's what I see the most often. I get messages daily saying, I have a wedding next week and my skin is really bad. How awful would it be if I just did steroids for this week so that my skin looks better for the wedding? And while I understand, like, no one knows more than me how uncomfortable it is and how awkward it is to have, be covered head to toe in a rash, because that was me. But you have to understand the damage or the side effects that come from suppressing something. Anytime you suppress, your body holds onto it and pushes it deeper down. And by deeper down, I mean to deeper organs or deeper cells. And the more you suppress, your body will push things deeper and deeper and deeper until it's damaging your vital organs, which then is where your life will end. So if you see people who die suddenly in their sleep at a young age, there was something that was majorly suppressed in their body, and eventually it took hold of their body. Or if you see someone who gets overrun by cancer and things like that, that's at some point your body is just overburdened with toxins and it has nowhere for it to go, and it's damaging your cells and your tissues. I made a video called The Progression of Disease not long ago, so if you haven't watched it, you guys can just go on my channel. It's a pretty recent video. It explains a lot of what I'm saying now. So if you're still a little bit confused as to where I'm going with this video, watch that video, and it explains what happens when you hold on to toxins and not let them go, and where that starts to develop and what starts to happen. The best thing you can ever do, especially if you have children, is if they have an acute issue, if they get a little, an ear infection or something acute, cold or a flu or a bout of diarrhea, do not suppress it. Do not suppress the fever. Ride it out, unless it's obviously like life-threatening and they're like, they need to be on something now or they'll die type of thing. Like if it's just something that's uncomfortable but manageable, let them ride it out. Let their body eliminate, because if you keep suppressing, they hold on to things, and that's when chronic disease develops. So then you end up with autoimmune or something else, and then it just keeps going worse and worse and worse from there. And it's why people today are dying from cancer. 1 in 2 people will have cancer. You know, it's kind of insane. If you sit in a room with 10 people that you love, like my family, we have 7 siblings. When I sit in the room looking, according to statistics, you know, half of us are going to have cancer or are going to die of cancer. And if you think about it, it's like, it's insane, and that should not be happening. That should not even be, there should not be statistics like that on cancer, because it's just insane when you think about it. Like, people are having cancer for a reason in our world today. They're just like, oh, it's part of life. It's part of, you know, aging, and you can't really get around it, but you can. And there's cancer for a reason. It's because your body's been forced to suppress its entire life and hold on to a bunch of garbage. And eventually it can't, you know, survive anymore. And that's how it falls apart, literally. So that's just what I want to share today. It's something that's been on my mind for a while. I'm just seeing here a couple questions. How do you know what the root cause is? The root cause would be determined by someone who's skilled in looking at the root cause. So usually medical doctors don't look at root cause, they just suppress the symptoms. So I would recommend a functional or like a holistic practitioner. My battery's dying, I gotta dim the screen. Hopefully it doesn't cut off on me soon. I'm gonna actually just disconnect this from the stand. Oop, sorry guys, okay. Yeah, so usually the functional or holistic doctors or practitioners, I'm just plugging it in, are where you want to be going. The average person doesn't like understand all the processes of disease, so like I wouldn't expect you guys to find the root cause on your own. I think that would just be pretty impressive if you could. But the biggest takeaway from this video is just don't suppress disease. If you have psoriasis, you have it for a reason. Don't do steroids, don't do injections. If you have alopecia or you have PCOS, like don't do the drugs. You can manage it naturally. Or even if you are on drugs that are suppressant, at least try to find a homeopathic practitioner or someone who can work with you to still get to the root cause. And then hopefully at some point you can get off the drugs because you won't need them. Okay, just scrolling. Can lack of bile from the gallbladder cause oily skin? It could. There's a lot of liver issues if you have oily skin because you're not breaking down fats, but I'm not going to be answering any questions like that today. I'm just specific to suppression of disease. Just looking here. Yeah, so cancer is absolutely, you know, grain and sugar related. It's our diet, right? Like you wouldn't have toxins in your body that are causing symptoms if you didn't put toxins in your body. If you ate perfectly well, you wouldn't have any symptoms, so there'd be nothing to suppress. So in my opinion, in homeopathic, like when you get into miasms, the way we see it is cancer starts to develop because something has been suppressed in the body and your body's been forced to hold on to something that is highly toxic. So say you have a really bad diet and then all of a sudden, you know, you get major acne or you get IBS, something, you know, develops because you have a lot of inflammation from a lot of bad food and alcohol and everything else that you've been eating and exposed to. If you go to a doctor, they suppress the symptoms. So now you think that you're cured, you think that you're fine, and you keep eating the way you've been eating. You don't change anything. You don't try to get to the root cause of those symptoms that you had. And then something bigger happens because your body's been forced to hold on to something. So more toxins get pushed into deeper organs. You might end up with pancreatitis, diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You know, there's all sorts of things that could pop up. You never can know what would happen in someone's body. But then again, your doctor sees that as completely unrelated to the IBS or the acne that you had that was suppressed, and they go and suppress that with more drugs without actually trying to improve the function and eliminate from the body. Then at some point, you know, over 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, however long you've been suppressing, holding on to toxins, your body says enough is enough. I cannot function anymore. My entire body's full of acidic toxins that are damaging the cells and tissues, and cancer forms. So absolutely sugar and bad food obviously plays a role in developing cancer in any disease, because again, if you were perfectly healthy and didn't consume bad foods and weren't exposed to toxins, you wouldn't have any symptoms to suppress in the first place, right? You wouldn't have these issues. So there's always diet and things like that are at the root of everything, but it's the suppression and not letting your body eliminate these toxins where the issues will start. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, looking here. I don't have any recommendations for anyone in Montreal, because I have a lot of recommendations for for practitioners who are local to me, but they don't do online consults, and I don't know other parts of the world or country and like who's practicing there, so I don't have any recommendations, unfortunately. But you can always, just do a Google search in your area and see what practitioners are around there. And you could even give them a call and see if, ask them a couple questions and see if what they're saying sounds like what you want to hear. And if you'd like to work with them or not. So there's always someone you can find wherever you are. But I'm going to wrap up this video and just hopefully you guys get the idea of where I'm trying to go with it. Again, I know it probably still is really confusing because it's just a ton of information to give in such a short time and explain it well, especially when you get into miasms. It's like a crazy topic, but I'm hoping that this just kind of starts things for you, and then maybe down the road I'll do another video going deeper specifically about miasms and explaining the different miasms and what they mean. But for now, that's just all I'm going to share. Just where it doesn't matter what symptom you have or what condition, you don't want to suppress it. If you're on the proper remedies, the proper homeopathics, and your symptoms are getting worse, provided your diet and lifestyle are really healthy and clean, it's a good sign. It means that your body is doing the right thing. So don't stop. If you stop too soon, then your body stops eliminating and you're back to suppressing. You're back to not doing anything about it. So ride things through and just let your body do what it needs to do to purge everything. The biggest mistake you could make is start, doing a great protocol, and then you just don't like how you feel because old toxins are being brought back to the surface, and then you stop. That's the worst thing you could do. So just keep going if you've already started something. And hopefully I have a couple more videos coming out. I'll be explaining more on this topic, in the near future. But looking here, yeah. So with that being said, there's one last thing that I want to say. I think Monday, it should be Monday, I will be posting an awesome giveaway with a lot of supplements. There'll be 2 winners, and the order should be in on Monday that I placed. So I'm really excited about it because I have a lot of really good supplements to give you guys. It's going to be a lot of value. So keep an eye out for Monday or Tuesday next week. The video should be up with the new giveaway. But thanks guys for joining. I really hope that you got a little bit of good information out of this video, and you have a good enough of an understanding as to what I'm trying to refer to when I say don't suppress your symptoms. They're there for a reason. Listen to your body. Your body's telling you something. So don't suppress. That's the most important, or you'll end up with much deeper issues, and it'll just keep building up from there. And the longer you suppress, the worse your symptoms will be, or your condition will get, and the harder it is to eradicate it from the body. So thanks everyone for joining, and we'll chat soon. Bye.